Dr. Bones, Dr. Bones, Dr. Bones.
Right on, and welcome to my interview with Seamus Evely, who has started his own blog and his own, well, you're working on doing a clinic too, but you got your blog as well and your podcast. So, Seamus, we know you, a lot of people know you from being the Gypsy Ghost drummer.
Yeah.
And it says in your bio that you're a session drummer. Now, what other bands or what other kind of sessions have you sat in on?
Yeah, so at this point, really, for the most part, I did a little thing there at EMAC. At this point, I do some freelance playing, more or less. Going to be hopefully doing some work with this guy, Kim Lumberg, maybe this month. Doing some free jazz, sort of experimental stuff at Eric Stack. This guy, Eric Stack, so he's a sax player. He's into his 70s now, and he's sort of in and around the local scene here in London. He's kind of a jazz guy. For years, he's done the jazz music, and he sort of hosts these little shows every once in a while. And it's just sort of a sit down sort of listening experience.
Right.
It's very experimental for sure. Definitely not something that the general public's probably gonna want to watch. But yeah, anyways, it's sort of in a sense, it's a matter of sort of like that's what I want to be doing too. So if you need a session player, give me a call because I'm able to do that kind of work. So that's basically what that title represents: some freelance work, and I'm available.
Now, that being said, are there I want to jump back to the jazz thing here for a second. Now, is it more, say, like jazz, like fusion, or is it like kind of a mix of like acid jazz and like we'll call it regular jazz, but I'm talking like Miles Davis and Charlie Parker?
Yeah.
And, like,
so, I mean, if you were to compare it to any kind of likeness in music, in the late 60s, 66, 67, there's definitely a lot of jazz musicians getting into the free jazz movement, sort of after the post-pop era sort of was starting to, it's that in-between stage between the post-pop and when jazz fusion started to sort of come along with electric instruments and stuff like that. So it's sort of like that sort of stuff. There's sometimes there's like a backbeat to the drumming, for example, but the approach to playing the drums with this is improvisation on small melodic ideas, and allowing time to develop and really playing with your ear. You have really no idea what's going to happen, so spontaneous playing is what you're going to be hearing. So that's sort of the take on that, is just sort of going in blind. And there is definitely themes, I mean, that everyone sort of generally understands. The music's a little more leaning towards classical and jazz music, so definitely very dense, and a lot of times, especially with Kim. Kim's playing is very dense.
Okay.
So for one person, he's able to produce quite a ridiculous amount of music. And yeah, he's quite a treat to play with, actually. We were practicing, sort of doing a get to know you session with another guy, Matt Shelbach, on electric guitar. And anyways, I remember we were playing, and it was there's a lot of searching involved with that.
Right.
Like we can grasp onto something within, few, 20 to 30 seconds, we can start to develop something. And there isn't really too many times where it's where it sort of feels like it's doing nothing.
Right.
It's sometimes more in the background, it's sort of developing slowly, and then you can definitely tell like those critical sort of moments that happen, that it's like there's a spike in the excitement in the playing, and
Right.
that's sort of what the searching is about. But like, as far as sort of chord structuring, sort of Kim's ability and his facility to play keyboards, he's able to create really interesting ideas really quickly and rapidly, and he's constantly mutating, and it's sort of my job in that scenario to really be listening the whole time, because there's no right or wrong at that point. There's bad and good. That's more I would look at it. Like, you're not you're totally letting go at that point. You're just
Right.
trusting your abilities, your skills, right, and using that to create something on the spot. And you just have to be listening to where you fit in, making good decisions overall musically, right?
Right.
So that's sort of what that gig's about. It's a great ear trainer. You walk away from that gig feeling like you've learned a lot of how to sort of fill a space.
Okay.
And do so. And then once you start playing more like groove-oriented music, that's more repetitious, and there's more, the themes are much stronger and predictable, and there's more of a flow to it rather than constant just particles of sound flying around you all the time. And the other stuff's pretty much face melting.
Okay.
Sort of musicianship at that point. Like, it's unreal what happens and like what you can hear. Like, I've never heard live music like that before, and it's because of his playing. He's a very special player, and he's an older gentleman too, so he's got a great amount of experience. Very confident
Right.
in what he does. But once you start playing groove style music, anything that's popular or whatever,
Right.
now you can find an idea like that and then just repeat it, and so it's much easier to improvise that way. It's good training.
Now, let me ask you, with your little kind of get to know you session, and then even after that, when you guys were jamming, what I've heard a lot is that when when a band's playing, that essentially what's happening is the rest of the band is following the drummer's beat, not the other way around. Now, let me ask you, when you're doing your warm up sessions, were you following him, or was he kind of following you? Like,
I think sort of the role as a drummer is to direct the dynamics and sort of the musical shifting.
Okay.
I think drummers would make good producers, because that's sort of what it's about. It's like, okay, that feels like a burnt out thing. Now it's time to maybe take down the dynamics and let's just sit on something for a moment. And so I have control of that situation in a lot of cases. But as far as anyone leading melodically, I think that's something that needs to be shared amongst everybody, and everyone needs to be listening to one another. So, what the drummer has control of, quote unquote, I guess, would be mostly the direction and dynamics of the music, and that's sort of the role there, I think.
well, this is coming from, we'll call it an outsider. I mean, I played in a couple garage bands, and that was it. So
Yeah.
don't exactly have a lot of experience with this sort of thing that could actually legitimately talk about without blowing smoke up your ass, so to speak, right? So, but I want to move on, since we're obviously doing a podcast. I want to move on to your podcast, John Gab, John's Corner. So let's talk about, first off, let's talk about what kind of sparked the idea for you to say, I want to do a blog and I want to do a podcast, because I'm a drummer. I want to be able to pass this stuff along and interview people like heroes, legends, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so kind of all comes from the birth of one thing. That sort of from that one thing has now developed into this whole other thing, and there's a sort of a series of events there. It all started with the drum solo contest. Now what that sort of represented to me, I guess, especially at that point in time, was creating new habits,
Right.
Habit building from more of a productive point of view, and sort of changing my daily lifestyle in a sense. So
Right.
in order to prepare for that solo required quite a lot of discipline and a lot of hours. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. In 2 weeks, I easily invested 50 to 60 hours on a practice pad.
Holy.
Like literally, like whole day on Sunday kind of thing. I'm in my room from 8 till midnight in front of a mirror and just practicing. And I mean, in that 2 week period, I also practiced very specific exercises to try to hone, hone my mechanics. So 2 weeks isn't really a lot of time. So there's this obsession and fast tracking, and I was really determined on being selected for that. I mean, I had the drive. I was, the talent that entered was extreme. Like some of the best drummers you will see in the country participated in that contest. And so, I knew that in order to have a chance, I would have to really apply myself. So anyways, I booked studio time with Kyle Ashbourne from EMAC, and set a date with him pretty much the second or first day of April. So I knew about it on April 1st, the first day. Right. Oh, no, sorry. It might have been a couple days prior to that. But anyways, by April 1st, I was already woodshedding, and I had a studio time booked with Kyle. And now I'm like, I have to practice because I'm going to be recording.
Right.
So it's sort of setting up these sort of fail-safes where... it's like, okay, I have to do this on this day. Now I'm committed. I have other people invested. They've set time away from their busy schedules to help me out on 2 weeks. Hey, man, can you do me a drum vid? And it's like, yeah, let's do it this day. Within an hour, Kyle and I, we had the whole thing in progress, right? So it was crazy how fast it came together. So it required a whole lot of practice. And now what that did is it forced new habits.
Right.
And now I can't stop. Now it's this full blown, meditation at times, in a sense. There's been lots of times where it requires the patience. You have to slow things down in your mind and like start forgetting about thoughts. It used to happen to me a lot with reading and playing practice rudiments and stuff. And just exercises, as my mind would wander from the activity, at hand, and it would take away from how much I can actually absorb,
Well, especially if you start losing a little bit of interest, and that's the biggest killer, right? Because then it's a lot harder.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just like any subject in school or what have you. If it's boring, it's going to be a lot harder to get through that class. And not because you can't do it, just because you can't focus because it just doesn't interest you.
Yeah, your mind is elsewhere.
Yeah,
it's
shutting that part off, saying no, meh.
Exactly. So I mean, at the end of the day, after that many hours, it sort of forced a new habit. And when I also saw the kind of progress I was receiving from all this practice, I also got very inspired by that development, and met a lot of very valuable people throughout the process, that I'm in constant contact with, one of which is this gentleman, Rob Ryan from Whitby. Now this guy, he's sort of like my, let's pretend we're in AA together. Okay, he's my sponsor, and this guy, he's like the guy who like keeps tapping me on the ass, He's like, all right, man, you're doing good, keep doing it, and like,
good game,
yeah, go get him, bros, right? And so we bat back and forth like this all the time, and this guy's the accolades he's achieved in 2 months. He's gotten 3 endorsements. He's got a clinic booked.
Nice.
He has he's writing for 180 Drums and Drumeo, which are the best educational blogs on the fucking planet. And this guy is writing for them within 2 months. He's doing his own YouTube.
Wow.
So this guy's, his work ethic, man, is, something to be desired by most people, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Because people think all that stuff comes overnight, and sometimes it does, but just because a person worked hard, they just didn't kind of snap their fingers and there it was, right?
I think a lot of people
there's
have this instant expectation of, I don't want to enjoy or go through the process. I want to just have the result.
That's the thing, is like these days is a lot more I want it now, quick.
Instant gratification. I mean,
I'd much rather work for it personally.
Yeah. And it's a good discipline, man. It's just, it's good to do, I think. But in any case, so, this guy, he out of the blue messaged me. I sent him a friend request, and he messaged me, and we started talking and that. And what this guy did is he sort of, he sent me some of his old footage, like 10 years ago. He used to compete and stuff. He hasn't really competed since then, besides the drum wheel contest.